the terminator of pleasures. Likewise, we find another hadith, I forbade you from visiting the graves, but verily indeed visit the graves, because verily it reminds you of the akhirah. Ibn Umar made this famous statement. He said that in the morning in the evening don't expect to make it to the morning, and in the morning don't expect to make it to the evening. وَخُذْ مِنْ صِحَّتِكَ لِمَرَضِكَ. Take from your health before you fall sick. وَخُذْ مِنْ حَيَاتِكَ لِمَوْتِكَ قَبْلَ مَوْتِكَ أو كما قال. Or take from your life before death comes upon you. This is the way that the Salaf, they understood their life. They never aspired to make it to the end of the day. They never aspired to make it to the end of the day. And in the evening never aspired to make it to the following day. But they always took from their health, and they took from their life before death came upon them. As for what will happen to the individual after death, what will happen to the individual when they are lifted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And we find that there is no repentance when the soul is about to be taken out of the throat. Just when it's about to be lifted, there is no repentance left for that individual. And that's what we find inside the Quran, فَلَوْلَا إِذَا بَلَغَتِ الْحُلْقُومِ, that when death comes to your throat, it's being taken out of your throat, وَأَنْتُمْ حِينَئِذٍ تَنْظُرُونَ, at that stage you are looking, وَنَحْنُ أَقْرَبُ إِلَيْهِ مِنْكُمْ وَلَكِنْ لَا تُبْصِرُونَ, and we are closer to you, closer to that individual than you are, but you cannot perceive us and you cannot see us. فَلَوْلَا إِن كُنْتُمْ غَيْرَ مَدِينِينَ, if you think you are free from accountability, تَرْجِعُونَهَا إِن كُنْتُمْ صَادِقِينَ, then return that soul back if you are truthful. That once that time comes, there is no going back. Likewise we find, وَجَاءَتْ سَكْرَةُ الْمَوْتِ بِالْحَقِّ ذَلِكَ مَا كُنْتُ مِنْهُ تَحِيدٌ, verily the stupor, the taking of death, the quick taking of death will come, the amazement of death, the startlement of death will come upon you. That is what you is trying to stay away from. Will come upon every single individual. And the greatest hadith, which talks about what will happen to an individual after death comes to them, is the hadith of Bara ibn Azib. In this long hadith that we find, that an individual, when the believer leaves this world, and angels with faces as white as the sun, carrying shrouds of paradise, and the perfume of paradise is placed upon these shrouds, will come to this good soul, and say, good soul, come out to forgiveness and acceptance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the soul comes out, like a drop of water is taken out of a water skin. If you squash the water skin, the water just seems to flow out easily. That is the way a good soul will come out. The nafsun tayyiba, a good soul will come out in that manner. And then it will be taken up. And it will be said, who is this good soul? And by every single good name in this dunya, that soul will be mentioned. Continuously being lifted up to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Lifted all the way through the heavens, up to the seventh heaven. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will say, record the book of my servant in Illiyun, in the highest record, and take him back to the earth. For verily I created him from the earth, and he shall return to it, and from it I shall bring him out once again. And then it will be said to him, who is your Lord? And he'll be given the tawfiq and ability to say, Rabbi Allah, my Lord is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What is your deen? What is your religion? Who is this man that was sent to you? And what is your source of knowledge? And that person who lived according to the laws of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this dunya will be given that ability. Given that tathbeet, that establishment to say the correct answers. And likewise you find that a man with a beautiful face will come to him, with a good smell, and you say, who are you? He will say, I am your good deeds. I am your good deeds. My Lord, bring aqim as-sa'a, bring the last hour. My Lord, bring the last hour, so that I may return to my people and my property. And another hadith will be stated, sleep like the newlywed bride. Sleep in this manner. No worries at all for that individual. As for the individual who is the fajir, the fasiq, the kafir, that individual is infidel, a rebellious person, then angels with black faces will come down upon that individual. And he will say, oh wicked soul, come out to Allah's displeasure and anger. And they will be carrying sacks, evil black sacks, with a foul stench. And they will rip out this person's soul. And the example given in the hadith is like how a fork, a hot fork is put in cotton wool and taken out. That if you place a hot fork inside a soft substance, it will stick to the fork. And this is the way the evil soul will be ripped out. Screaming and shouting, the veins will be ripped out, the soul will be ripped out through the veins. And everything can hear that screaming of that individual. And a foul stench will come from this individual's soul. And it will be taken up. And it will say, oh wicked soul. Every single wicked name in this dunya that a person was called by will be called as it's travelling up. And the doors of paradise will not open. Will only go to the lowest heaven, and that is it. And you find, لا تفتح لهم أبواب السماء ولا يدخلون الجنة حتى يلج الجمل في سم الخياط. That the doors of paradise will be sealed for that individual, and they will never ever enter into paradise until the camel goes through the eye of the needle, which is impossible. That is what will happen to this individual. And then it will be said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will say, record his record in Sijjeen, in the lowest record, and then it will be thrown down from the heavens down to the lowest earth. And then the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam recited the verse, وَمَنْ يُشْرِكْ بِاللَّهِ فَكَأَنَّمَا خَرَّ مِنَ السَّمَاءِ أَوْ تَخْطَفَهُ الطَّيْرُ أَوْ تَحْوِي بِهِ رِيحُ فِي مَكَانٍ سَحِيقٍ. That what the example of this individual is as a bird has thrown him down from the heavens, or the wind snatches him away, takes him away to a faraway place. This is the example of shirk billahi azza wa jal. Shirk does not bring you close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, takes you far away from Him, takes you far away. That is a similitude given in this verse. And then it will be thrown down to this dunya. Then it will be said to him, who is your Lord? What is your religion? And who is this man that was sent to you? And he will say, la adri, la adri. A form in the Arabic language, I don't know. It will say, kadhabt, you have lied. Because he will know everything. This is the only exam that every single person in this dunya has the answer. But they won't be able to say it on that day. No one cannot say it except by the tawfiq of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They say, he has lied. Spread out the carpets for hell for him and open a gate of hell for him. And it will say that some of the hot air comes inside there. And the grave is made narrow. And his ribs will begin to interlace. This is the punishment that will be given to this individual. And a man with an ugly face and ugly garments will come in front of him with an offensive smell. And he say, be grieved with what displeases you, for this is your day which you have promised. He said, who are you? Say, I am your wicked deeds. My Lord, do not bring the last hour. My Lord, do not bring the last hour. And that's why we find Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyah, he mentions that the place of the grave, and even before that, Uthman ibn Affan would weep at the remembrance of the grave. And they said that you don't weep about anything else. But why do you weep about the remembrance of the grave? Because he said this is the first manzil, the first station before the rest of the manazil, the rest of the stages. If you are successful inside the grave, everything will be successful for you. And many of the Salaf, you read the seerah, it may sound amazing, but they would dig graves and lie inside there to remind themselves that this is where we have to return one day. We don't have this journeys to the graveyard to remember that one day we have to go back there one day to reflect upon this return to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyah, he mentions the link between qabr and qalb. Is a verse inside the Quran, أَفَلَا يَعْلَمُ إِذَا بُعْثِرَ مَا فِي الْقُبُورِ وَحُصِّلَ مَا فِي الصُّدُورِ. The link between the qabr and the qalb. The qalb is the place which hides all of your hidden secrets. Nobody knows it except for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And likewise the qabr, nobody knows what happens inside the grave إِلَّا اللَّهُ عَزَّ وَجَلَّ, except for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Both are concealed confinements. What is inside the heart and what is inside the grave. That's why these philosophers, they believe that there must be some movement inside the grave. So they took some mercury and they placed it inside the grave. Because mercury moves at great speed, or anything makes mercury move. They placed it there, hoping to see that when they dig up the grave, the mercury will move and we'll see that some effects of adhab al-qabr. How foolish these people are. They think that they can judge everything by their rationale, by philosophy. This is barzakh, this is the interspace, that nobody knows what will happen except for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's how we find that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam sought refuge from the punishment of the grave. That there's people who deny this concept, that is rationalistic attribute that we find, the way of the Mu'tazila, that is young people who believe that there is no adhab al-qabr. This is an incorrect belief. It is against the way of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah to believe that the punishment of the grave does not exist. Why did the Prophet Muhammad pray in every single prayer? When a Jewish woman came to Aisha radiallahu anha and told her to seek refuge from the punishment of the grave, and she asked the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said she has spoken the truth, that the punishment of the grave is real. And she narrates that after that statement, he forever would seek refuge from the punishment of the grave. Every time he prayed. This is the sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And even small things, and namima, spreading gossiping, lying, spreading rumors about people, and those people who do not wash themselves after going to the lavatory, opens up the doors of the punishment of the grave for the individual. How many people, young people, don't pay attention to this? Don't cleanse themselves properly. You have opened up the doors of the punishment of the grave upon yourself. And Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah, he writes that every single aspect can hear the punishment of the grave.